Hey everyone, it's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. I'm still pointing out a little bit. I'm putting my he, him pronouns up in tribute to our good friends Ezra and Marshall. Today on the show, we've got Miss Allison Spooner. How are you today, Allison?
Hello, I am great.
Is your nickname the Shadow Princess?
I guess it is. It's Brandon's nickname for me, Brandon Navin from the Artist Umbrella.
Have you? So I've got this comment section, and as soon as I put you on the screen, that's what came up. So,
And I knew it was
um,
Brandon.
yeah, that's exactly who did it. So, how are you today?
I am great. Hanging in there.
Is it feeling colder where you are than uh,
Yeah,
yesterday?
yeah. Busting out the jackets and the scarves and the slippers and all that jazz. So it might actually be fall now.
You think it's official?
I don't know. We'll see. Who knows? It's been 90 in October before, so you never know.
That's what I'm hoping for, like 90 degrees on Halloween.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we'll see. It's Michigan. You
uh,
never know.
yeah. So, if you don't mind, would you tell us something about Allison Spooner and whatever projects that you're working on?
Oh man, one of them, huh?
No, you can
So
do all 100 of them because I see you're out there. I see you busy.
I got a lot going on. I guess the all-encompassing title would be author. So on Facebook, I'm author Allison Spooner, and that encompasses a lot. For my day job, I do freelance writing, marketing writing, all that fun stuff. And then for my own personal writing, I write mostly flash fiction, which is complete stories in less than 1,000 words. So I have been cranking that out for a couple of years. I have two books of collections of flash fiction, which you can find on Amazon. So I always say it's for people who think they don't have time to read because you can read a complete story in about 5 minutes. So right before you go to bed, while you're waiting in car line to drop the kids off, while you're waiting at the grocery store, if you don't have time to read a whole novel, a fiction book, you have time to read a quick flash fiction story. Um, and I am the director of content and marketing for the Artist Umbrella. So, shining the spotlight on creatives and artists in the community has become a passion of mine since beginning to work with them about a year ago. I am working on making writing fiction and writing nonfiction more of a business. So, working on offering services, I guess, to write stories for other people. Um, so I can keep going, or you can ask anything that might have come up about all that, or I'll just keep blabbering on.
Well, I did want to ask you some more things. You how many books have you written?
I have two collections out right now.
Okay, and how many are you working on?
So I am working on, well, I'm always working on flash fiction, which just gets me more and more stories until I have enough to put into another collection. But recently, my focus has actually been back on a novel. So I am writing a novel and I will be hopefully completing it throughout the course of November, which is National Novel Writing Month.
Oh, you're gonna finish it in November?
Yeah, so I've already started it. I've got a whole bunch of it pretty much done, and I'm just editing and adding things. So hopefully I can use the momentum of what they call National Novel Writing Month to get it done.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So kind of like Inktober, but for novel
Yep.
writers.
Yep. I saw
Um,
Mila on talking about that.
yeah, Mila was pretty awesome too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the so I've seen you perform at the Artist Umbrella, and by perform I mean write your or read your one of your flash fictions is what I assume, which was very powerful. Um, the story of your or part of one of the stories of your father, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and it was that was that definitely moved me. What's the shortest thing you've ever read? Like, is it 4 seconds? or
probably 440 words, I guess. There's an event called Fiction 440 that some folks in the community put on, and it's been going on for a really long time, and I've been involved in that for a while. So you write, it's flash fiction, but they give you a 440 word limit. And I'm sure I've written shorter things, like I've written Facebook posts. And actually,
right.
I did a bunch of Facebook posts actually about my dad and some of his writing and combining his writing and mine writing. So those were probably shorter than that as well. So
Is there a lot of pressure when you do a Facebook post to get everything authory? You know, like with me, I'm just this moron that babbles on. But with you, you must have pressure.
yeah, I do kind of feel like every time I'm like, wait, are there any grammar mistakes in that, or is it perfect? But at the end of the day, I'm like, it's Facebook. People can go read my stuff and they'll see that I know, I know how
Yeah.
to use grammar. They're not gonna find it out from Facebook.
The that 440, is that an attempt to make things concise? Is it an attempt to why do they pick 440?
You know,
And
I don't know why they picked that. It's been around for quite a while. And I don't, it personally for me, it helps. And it actually helped me get writing again. For a long time, I was forcing myself to try to write a novel, because that's just in my head, that's just what writers did. If you're a writer, you wrote a novel, and it just wasn't happening for me. I wasn't finding an idea that really resonated enough to turn into a novel. I'm like, if I don't care enough, nobody else is going to care enough to read this.
yeah,
So, but it was when I discovered like Fiction 440 and then some flash fiction contests online that I was like, okay, this is fun. Like I can write something in 440 words, or 1,000 words is the true definition of flash fiction, and pack a punch, and you don't have all the pressure of backstory and world building. And so it's fun, but also a challenge, because without the pressure of backstory building and world building, you have to really communicate it in a few
yeah.
words. So it's challenging but fun, and I really kind of discovered that as my niche for a long time.
Well, you're motivating me because I've been doing this story or this not story this pitch competition called 99 seconds, but a pitch ain't one.
Mm-hmm.
And the 99 seconds to me, it was really like what you're talking about with the 1,000 words, and
Mm-hmm.
thinking, you got to be concise. You got to tell us what the gist is without telling us, that you went to 500 different colleges or whatever. But I've been wanting to do a 24-second one. Now I really want to do the 24-second one
Just make it
and
shorter
really
and shorter
torture
till it's
people.
just like one word.
Yes, you have one word to convince us to give you $99. No, then I can make
I'd
it
watch
$1.
that.
Yeah?
One word. It's
Okay.
like
We'll give it a shot. When I met you, you were in the entrepreneurial space, or another part of the entrepreneurial space, more of maybe the tech and the startup scene. I definitely consider the artist as the genesis of entrepreneurial space. Um, and you wrote an article about us once that was the first article that didn't, well, you call this an incubator and much more. That was the title. And everyone had called us like this incubator until then, and you kind of opened it up. So number one, thank you. Number two, the importance of storytelling stuck with me. And there's three things that we always talk about: the story, the aesthetic, and the tour. And that story part, I think definitely I credit you with some of that in those early days of what Jesse Flores and you guys were doing with the startup Lansing, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Was
that was a lot of
that
fun, and I think my role in the entrepreneurship and the tech world, and because I'm not techie at all, but it's very much around stories and telling the stories of entrepreneurs. I always found really, really fascinating, because they always have really fascinating stories.
yeah? What were you an author then? Is that what you were thinking you were doing? Were you a marketing person? What did you think you were at that point? And I hope that you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. It's an interesting question. So I've always, I guess in my head, I've always been an author. Although in my head, the distinction between writer and author is like once you've written a book, whether it's published or not, or once you've written something like that's out there, then you're an author. Like you put your name on it, you're the author of it. And then a writer just, writes. And no, it's not like one's better than the other for sure. It just that's how I think about it in my head. So I guess in that sense, I was not an author yet. At that point, I hadn't really published anything or put anything out there and smacked my name on it besides articles, I guess. So I take that back because I wasn't I was an author of articles. Um, and I guess I got into like marketing writing and a lot of that because it was kind of in my head all I could do to make money with my writing. If I wanted to write and I wanted to make money at it, like marketing writing is pretty much what you do when you're a writer and you need to, have some income coming in. And that was starkly insane. And telling the stories of businesses and entrepreneurs was a way to do that, but still really embrace kind of what I loved, which was telling interesting stories.
So I'm going to go back. I asked you about Allison Spooner and the author Allison Spooner. I think you skipped over the first part. Where do you mind if I ask where you were born?
I was born in Stockbridge, Michigan,
Right.
so a little, gosh, I don't know, east of here.
East
Tiny,
and
small
south.
town.
Yeah. I know where it is. Most of you should know where it is. Find out where it is. And then did you go to high school in Stockbridge?
I did, yes. And
And
then went to Grand Valley. So moved to that area for a little while, Grand Rapids area. Went to Colorado for a little while, lived in Grand Rapids for a little while, and have been living in Lansing probably the bulk of my adult life.
Did you study writing, English, something like that at Grand Valley?
I did. I studied creative writing, which my advice for up and coming writers would be to study something else.
Yeah. Is it because it's hard to get a job or?
But yeah, I think I would, like, if you want to make it your minor or whatever, but I would definitely study something practical, more practical. I shouldn't say that. I'm not dissing the liberal arts or anything like that, but study, marketing or communications or some area like that as your major, and then, work on your creative writing and stuff on the side too. Because there are lots of ways to do it, to learn more about your craft in colleges without actually studying it.
I learned more about programming outside of college than I did in college. Do you think that's the same with writing?
Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing I really remember about like my writing courses was like the workshops and the camaraderie in the workshops and reading my work out loud, which you can do that on your own it was nice to have like a professor's feedback and all that. And I probably still have stories buried away with their scribbles on it. So that was really good, but you can do stuff like that. You can start workshops, start writing groups, find your people and find your, people to interact with around stuff like that without paying a university a lot of money to do it.
Yeah. I always wonder like I had a liberal arts education. I have a degree in statistics or mathematics, however you want to look at it. But I had a lot of philosophy, a lot of English, a lot of, I guess, literature is what I should have said. And I love my liberal arts degree, but practically everything that I learned was really in a textbook, maybe a little bit of practice here and there. My math and my computer science, I definitely did not need to go to school for that. I could have learned that from hanging around a few people that would teach me a few things. So I'm always curious as what kind of careers like could just go right to YouTube and, or some other thing, like 6 people in a room could teach you a lot more than, YouTube probably.
Yeah, I think the
Um,
best way to learn about writing and learn how to write is to just do it. Like there's
yeah.
not a lot. There's only a certain amount of things you can learn in the classroom, and then the rest is going to be just doing it and giving it to other people and getting feedback, giving it to the right people. I will add, but applying the feedback, learning what works and learning what doesn't, you can only
Do
do
you
that through actually doing it.
do you get a lot of feedback where people like tell you all these things and you're like, yeah.
I have. Like, pass. But you also, and that's also something you learn through just doing. You learn what feedback to take and what to not take. And you won't always take all the feedback that everybody gives you. And that's something you can only learn through experience too.
Yeah. Um, so I could go onto Amazon, walk through a wizard, and be an author in, I don't know, pretty quick right now, right?
Yeah,
Um, does that piss you off?
I
Because
don't
I
think
know
so.
it
I
pissed
mean,
the artist, it pissed the artists off, it pisses the photographers off. Um, I think as a writer, that must be the new cringe point. Like, oh my god.
so it's a fine line because I like that there's more access for authors to get published because there used to be a huge barrier, and that barrier was traditional publishing. And if you couldn't get in with an agent, and then you couldn't, um, if you didn't have the contacts and a lot of that, I like that a lot of those barriers are gone now, and you can get your words out. Um, we always talk about access and making sure that art is accessible, and
Hmm.
this makes it more accessible. It makes it more accessible to authors and writers to get their stuff out there, um, but it does make it makes it possible
More
for
diluted.
really anyone to put their book on Amazon. But what's going to happen is it's not going to sell. Like
Yeah.
that's just the fact. If it's not good,
And
if it's not something people want to read, if it's not well written, if it's clear they didn't put effort into it, that's just not
yeah.
gonna.
And I think you've used some of these mechanisms, right, to kind of get there,
Yeah,
to
so I
get through
publish
some
on
of those
Amazon.
barriers. Yeah. So I don't mean it like that
Mm-hmm.
process is
Yeah.
the bad part. What I mean is some babbling idiot like me could just scribble down a bunch of words and be published fairly quickly without any. I mean, I'm gonna have to pay money and stuff like that, but yeah. Um,
Yeah. Well, it's the price you pay, I guess, for
yeah.
technology.
But I love your point though, because there are people, we say, and I mentioned this yesterday with Mike, that genius is lost in poverty. And I imagine that there are a lot of great writers, a lot of great, notebooks like this in flooded basements, that
Mm-hmm.
there was some genius writing something just brilliant that will never be published.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the glory and also the pitfall of the internet. Like anyone can have a voice, but anyone can have a voice. So
So,
it's great that you can put something on Facebook and it can be seen by, thousands of people, and maybe it's really beautiful and you just never had the means to publish it, but it still gets seen. So that's a really great thing.
is there something you do every damn day to kind of get us to the gist of the show that kind of pushes your needle forward, and um, that you just kind of have a ritual about, or that you see as why you're successful?
I It's something I've been trying to do for a really long time, and I've only gotten better at it probably in the last few months. Actually, probably since the pandemic. So, hidden, silver linings and all that, is getting up early and doing my stuff first. I work on my own writing first. So the danger of being a writer and being a writer is that I write all day for other people. Um, Through whether it's blogs or social media or website content or whatever, I'm constantly writing. And so if I try to write at the end of the day for myself, I'm very burnt out on it, and that's the last thing I want to do is sit down and even though it's something I love writing. So I've kind of switched gears, and even though I'm not a morning person, I get up earlier than I normally would, and I sit at the computer at 7:37, 7:30, even earlier some days, and I write my stuff first before I do anything else. And so I think that's something, especially in the arts, and especially in if you do the thing that you love for a living too, um, that you need to prioritize yourself and your own stuff over the stuff you do for everyone else.
I love that advice. It's really easy for me to kind of soak that in and say, shit, I need to kind of reprioritize my morning, because that's probably when you're at your best too, right? I mean,
Oddly enough, yes.
when you're at Word 5085, I don't even know how fast people
Mm-hmm.
write, but you want it to be for someone else's article, not necessarily for your
Mm-hmm.
novel, right?
Yeah.
So yesterday, Mike Marriott, I think you know him.
I do.
Are you an Opportunity Arts affiliate?
I am.
Yeah. He had a question for you. And his question is, when did you know that this is how you wanted to make your living? Writing, being an author. And you can use that distinction when you went from, just writing and being a creative writing to boom, now I'm going to be an author. I'm going to be published and I'm going to make my money from books, or try to, or whatever.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I had time to think about this, and I'm not sure the right answer. I have always wanted to be a writer, I guess is the answer there. There was never a time where I really considered doing anything else. So I always wanted to like make a living writing books. Or I also wanted to be Lois Lane at one point, but I think that was mostly just because of Superman. But um, so I thought maybe I'd be a famous reporter or something. But when I realized what that actually entailed, I was like, no thanks. But so I've always wanted to write, and I always knew I wanted to make a living writing. Um, and I guess when it's probably been in the last only like 5 or so years I really started like making a real effort to like make money at it. And it was probably when I started meeting other people in the community who were doing the same thing, or who were a little more business minded than myself and were like, hey, you can make money doing this. Like, you don't have to sit around and try to be traditionally published just to make money. You can utilize technology, and you can utilize the tools you have in front of you. And, Jesse Flores is probably a great example of that. So he probably helped me a lot realize like, I don't have to sit and wait to get, published before I can make money writing. I can look at it like a business and use the tools I have to do that.
So you think probably merging with that entrepreneurial echo space helped you a little bit?
Yeah, probably. So, which is, I mean, it's advice artists get all the time, and entrepreneurs and everyone gets all the time, to surround yourself with the right people. And
Yeah.
that's exactly it. Because if I hadn't done that, I'd probably spend, my days binging Netflix shows and all that. But I'm around a lot of people that hustle and are really passionate about what they do, and, that you can't help but have that rub off. So
We've had a lot of questions over the last week about, when did your art become your business? When did it become, this other thing that wasn't a hobby or something like that? And it surprises me how in the arts you can be looked at as like a capitalist pig if you're working on that side of your craft, but everywhere else you're not. And we want you strong, right? You represent our culture. You are recording things for us. You are putting out there something that reflects who the rest of us are as a writer, an author, an artist. And I want you strong. So I'm glad you're hustling, and I'm glad you're figuring out a way to, make a living doing this and doing what you love. So first of all, thank you for that. Sounds like I'm wrapping up the show. I'm not, because we got another thing that we have to do, and that is that tomorrow I've got my friend from Chicago named Will, and he does something called the White Rose Network, which every summer except for this summer, he comes up to the Fledge. Well, COVID is the reason, but he comes up to the Fledge and he has a residency, and he invites people from all over the place to come here, and they go out and they record glass breaking and the sounds of the city and stuff like that, and then they come back and they put it together as an art piece. And I'm being careful not to say musical or song or whatever, because it is it's an intentional set of noise that is meant to make you feel a certain way. So I'm having a hard time explaining what this guy does, but you get the gist, I think. So what question would you like to ask Will?
Yeah, so my question would be, what was the first sound you heard that you wanted to record? Because we hear sounds every single day. None of us are like, oh, I need to record that, like that garbage truck outside. So what was the first sound you heard that you're like, I really need to capture this and turn it into something?
That's an incredible question. And you know what? You took me right back. You're probably younger. Well, I know you're younger and won't maybe know how the joy of when you got your first tape recorder and you were able to press record and play at the same time, and it would record something, and that was amazing. You probably had an iPhone experience or something like that. Is that true?
I had a cassette player.
Like that? Really?
That you could record on? Yeah, and I just remembered this. I actually did like an audio book with like one of my stories that I wrote in like middle school or high school or something. Middle school. I recorded it. I read it and like used a cassette tape to record it, like the first audio book.
You got to find that. That could be
I think
worth
it's
millions. So now though, wow, that kind of changes the dynamic of what I want to ask you, because I want to flip this question on you. And, you know, what I think for a writer or an author, the equivalent of what you just asked Will would be, what was the first thought you wanted to write down?
Yeah, and that's so hard because like I said, I've always wanted to be a writer. Like I don't ever remember not wanting to. So even when I was like little and reading. And so I guess I have to just go off, like it's not an actual physical memory, but I have written down somewhere a story that I transcribed to my mom and she wrote it down for me because I couldn't even write yet. So even before I could write, I wanted to like be capturing my thoughts. And I mean, it wasn't anything interesting. It was like, I'm going to go play with so-and-so today, and I'm going to do this. And no, I'm going to sing a song. And I literally made her write down the words to Jingle Bells or something like that while I sang. And so she was my first. So I don't know what the first specific thought was, but I know that it was before I could even write. I wanted to like get my thoughts down on paper.
Well, that's a great answer. It's probably not a really fair question, is it?
Yeah.
What was your first thought, and how old were you in months? So that's kind of amazing, though, the way you described that, because you couldn't write. And if you're a writer, well, yeah. But I said that, you know, what's a more abstract way to say that? You know, what's the first thought you wanted to be able to repeat the expression? That's weird. I always get wrapped up in abstracting things, but I love that. I love that you couldn't write well yet when it was the first time. So kind of shows the weakness of my question. So do you think that I'm going to ask you one more question, then do a little bit of business. Do you think that authors and writers are valued as much as they should be as a reflection of what you're doing for us? Do people know what you're doing for us, that you're recording and culturizing what we're doing?
That
Do
is a
you feel
very,
appreciated?
I do personally, yes, but I think it's because going back to that advice, like I've surrounded myself with the right people and put myself in the right community, and I found my tribe. And like with the artist umbrella, obviously, like all art is valued, and there's never a time you walk away from a show or a meeting or a get together or an event going like, oh man, I didn't feel like that went well. Like, so I do, but I'm also, online in groups and on Twitter, and I know there's still a challenge around that for a lot of people. Um, Especially, I think different types of writing are not always as valued as they should be. Um, I'm going to use like romance as an example. I don't love romance novels, but I know that romance writers are not any less of a writer than anyone else. Like, I know some amazing romance writers, but I do feel like they get a little scoffed at because they write romance. But even a personal friend of mine just got a Netflix deal for her romance, or is in talks for a Netflix deal for her romance series. So I think that's the challenge. I think people can scoff at different types of writers, um,
Mm.
but it's all valuable. It's all still words. It's all about the human experience. We all experience romance. We just not everybody reads it. So
Yeah.
I think that's the challenge, and getting paid enough. I think
Yeah.
is still a challenge, and people don't understand what goes into it, or even know how to compensate for it. Which I don't blame them, but
Yeah.
I don't
It
know
is
how to put a
difficult.
number on what I do either.
So I'm gonna do a little business, and that's just Sunday coming up at 3 p.m. We've got 99 problems, but a pitch ain't one. Every damn day at 2, we have every damn day. Tuesdays at 3 p.m., we are presenting 10,000 Fledges, and we're going to start up a virtualized podcast of Coding Club next or in 2 weeks. So look out for that. Anything you want to plug or talk about? I saw you. There's something going on tonight for the artist.
Yeah,
Maybe?
so there's an artist umbrella event tonight at Urban Beat in Old Town. Doors open at 6:30. Show starts at 7. Um, If you need tickets, you gotta grab them. We were running out last I checked in because of social distancing guidelines. We really had to cap capacity, and Urban Beats a smaller venue than we're used to anyway. So it's going to be a small, intimate show, which is going to be really nice. It's going to be a little more low key and more chill than a lot of our other shows. So that is tonight. You can reach out to me. You can go to the Artist Umbrella on Facebook if you want to look into getting tickets. And my stuff, you can find my books on Amazon if you just search my name. Um, and you can also go to snacksizfiction.com, and that has all my stories. So there's some that are available for free, there's some that are available if you subscribe, and there's some that are available for a little fee. So yeah, snacksizfiction.com, and you can find me on Facebook at author Allison Spooner.
All right. We'll put all those links in the comments for everybody. So I always ask the guests, is there anything you'd like to take us out with? Any advice? You can just do deuces. You can sing a song. You can dance, whatever you want.
Oh my goodness. My advice is, I guess I'll just repeat what I said earlier. Be selfish. If you're an artist, be selfish. Put your art first. Do your thing first. If you don't prioritize yourself, and my headphones are not great. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one else will. So make sure that you are prioritizing yourself and your art.
All right. I love it. And I just want to say something from me and from the Fledge. We appreciate you. Thank you for doing what you do. I hope that we all figure out someday on how to put value where value should be. But in the long run, they will remember the stories that you tell, not the crap we leave laying around or whatever. So we appreciate you a lot, Allison. Thank you for doing what you do. Yep. We'll see you.
Bye.